Introduction: the need for strategic leadership in a complex world. We live in an age of unprecedented volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. A VUCA world technological disruption reshapes industries overnight, global crises test the resilience of the most robust organizations, and the pace of change continues to accelerate in this environment. Traditional management focused primarily on maintaining stability, optimizing processes, and overseeing the status quo is no longer sufficient. Organizations today do not just need managers, they need strategic leaders. These are individuals who can look up from the day-to-day operations to scan the horizon, anticipate shifts, and steer their organizations through turbulent waters toward a sustainable future. Strategic leadership is the bridge between a compelling vision and tangible results, between the uncertainty of tomorrow and the actions of today. This encyclopedia is founded on the premise that strategic leadership is not an innate gift but a developable set of competencies, and it is the critical differentiator between organizations that merely survive and those that truly thrive. How to use this encyclopedia. This volume is designed as a comprehensive yet practical resource for current and aspiring leaders, executives, MBA students, and anyone responsible for guiding an organization's future. It is structured to be explored in multiple ways, as a linear guide. Read from cover to build a complete foundational knowledge of strategic leadership, from its core principles to its application in modern challenges. As a reference manual, use the detailed index and table of contents to dive into specific topics when you face a particular challenge, such as formulating a new strategy, leading a change initiative, or making a high-stakes decision. As a development tool, leverage the concepts, frameworks, and reflective questions throughout the text for personal development, to build leadership training programs, or to facilitate team workshops. Each chapter is designed to stand alone, providing a thorough exploration of a key topic, while also being integrated into the larger narrative of what it means to lead strategically. Defining strategic leadership. Beyond management, it is essential to distinguish between leadership and management, as this distinction lies at the heart of strategic leadership. As renowned scholar Warren Bennis famously summarized, managers are people who do things right and leaders are people who do the right things. Management is about efficiency, planning, budgeting, organizing, staffing, controlling, and problem solving. It is about executing the present order with precision and reliability. A manager ensures their team hits its quarterly targets. Leadership is about effectiveness, establishing direction, aligning people, motivating, inspiring, and creating change. It is about setting the course for the future. Strategic leadership synthesizes these two concepts. A strategic leader is both a manager and a leader, but operates at a higher level of focus. They are defined by their ability to 1. Articulate a vision, create a clear, credible, and compelling picture of the future state of the organization. 2. Think systemically, understand the complex interconnections within the organization and between the organization and its external environment. 3. Make informed decisions, weigh complex information, consider long-term implications, and make tough choices under uncertainty. 4. Align resources and people, ensure the organization's structure, culture, talent, and capital are all directed toward achieving the strategic vision. 5. Navigate change, anticipate the need for change, initiate it, and guide the organization through the inevitable resistance and disruption. In short, strategic leadership is the capacity to do the right things right, to set a visionary course, and to ensure the organization has the operational excellence to follow it. This encyclopedia is your guide to developing that critical capacity. Part I, Foundations of Strategic Leadership. Chapter 1, The Evolution of Leadership Thought. To understand strategic leadership, one must first appreciate the historical tapestry of leadership theories from which it emerged. This chapter traces the evolution of leadership thought, showing how each new theory built upon or reacted to its predecessors, gradually refining our understanding of what it means to lead effectively in complex environments. This journey culminates in the integrative and context-aware approaches that define strategic leadership today. Trait theory and the great man. Core premise: the earliest systematic attempts to understand leadership, popular in the late 19th and early 20th centuries, focused on the idea that leaders are born, not made. This great man theory, a term coined by historian Thomas Carlyle, posited that history is shaped by extraordinary men, and it was almost exclusively men possessing innate Qualities like intelligence, courage, charisma, and wisdom. Key focus, the search for a definitive set of universal traits that all leaders share. Researchers studied great historical figures to identify these common characteristics. Contribution and limitation, while it seems intuitive that effective leaders share certain traits, e.g., integrity, confidence, resilience, the trait approach ultimately proved insufficient. It is largely deterministic, ignoring the development of leadership skills. And, most critically, the context in which leadership occurs. It could not explain why a brilliant leader in one situation might fail in another, or why unexceptional individuals often rise to leadership challenges. Behavioral and contingency theories in reaction to the limitations of trait theory. Researchers in the mid-20th century shifted their focus from who leaders are to what leaders do. Behavioral theories, core premise, leadership is a set of observable behaviors that can be learned and taught. Key focus, identifying the specific behaviors that differentiate effective leaders from ineffective ones. Classic studies, e.g., Ohio State and University of Michigan studies, identified two key dimensions: 1. Initiating structure, task-oriented behavior, organizing work, defining roles, and scheduling tasks. 2. Consideration, people-oriented behavior, building trust, respect, and camaraderie. Contribution and limitation, this was a democratic leap forward, suggesting leadership was accessible to anyone willing to learn the right behaviors. However, it still searched for a one best style of leadership, which subsequent research found did not exist. Contingency theories, situational leadership. Core premise, the most effective leadership style is contingent on the situation. There is no single best way to lead. Key focus, matching a leader's style to the demands of the specific context, often defined by factors like task structure, leader-member relations, and the followers' readiness level. Key models include Fiedler's contingency model, House's path-goal theory, and Hersey-Blanchard's situational leadership theory. Contribution and limitation, this was a critical advancement, introducing the role of context and follower maturity into the leadership equation. It moved beyond a universal prescription. The complexity of these models, which require accurate diagnosis of situations, can be a practical challenge for leaders. Transformational and transactional leadership. This paradigm, heavily influenced by James McGregor Burns and later Bernard Bass, introduced a moral and motivational dimension to leadership, moving beyond mere exchange. Transactional leadership, core premise, leadership is based on a transaction or exchange between the leader and followers. The leader rewards or disciplines followers based on their performance. Key focus, setting clear goals, providing feedback, and using rewards and punishments to achieve compliance. It is essential for maintaining routine and ensuring short-term goals are met, but does not inspire innovation or extraordinary effort. Transformational leadership, core premise, leadership is about transforming followers' values, attitudes, and motivations, inspiring them to achieve more than they originally intended. Key focus, the 4 I's, 1. Idealized influence, charisma, acting as a role model with high ethical standards. 2. Inspirational motivation, articulating a compelling vision of the future. 3. Intellectual stimulation, encouraging creativity and challenging assumptions. 4. Individualized consideration, acting as a coach or mentor to followers. Contribution, this theory powerfully explains how leaders can achieve exceptional performance and drive significant change. It is closely aligned with the visionary aspect of strategic leadership. The rise of strategic and adaptive leadership. The late 20th and early 21st centuries, characterized by globalization and rapid technological change, demanded a new synthesis of earlier ideas. Strategic leadership, core premise, leadership must be oriented toward the long-term viability and competitive advantage of the entire organization. It integrates the what, vision, strategy, with the how, culture, structure, people, and the who, the leader's cognitive and emotional capabilities. Key focus, it operates at the nexus of leadership and strategy. A strategic leader is not just a motivational figure but a systems thinker, a navigator of complexity, and an architect of organizational capability. They absorb the transformational focus on vision and the contingency focus on context, but apply it to the entire strategic landscape of the organization. Adaptive leadership, Heifetz and Linsky. Core premise, The most pressing challenges organizations face are adaptive challenges, problems with no clear technical solution that require people to learn new ways of working, change their attitudes, and often relinquish deeply held beliefs. Key focus: the leader's role is not to provide answers but to mobilize people to tackle tough challenges. It involves getting on the balcony to see the bigger picture, regulating distress, and directing attention to the hard work of adaptation. Contribution: this framework is crucial for understanding the role of strategic leadership in navigating disruptive change, making it a vital component of the modern strategic leader's toolkit. Chapter conclusion: the evolution of leadership thought shows a clear trajectory, from a focus on innate traits to behaviors, from universal styles to situational context, and from transactional exchanges to transformational inspiration. Strategic and adaptive leadership represent the current zenith of this evolution, integrative, context-dependent, and focused on securing an organization's future in an unpredictable world by mobilizing people to meet adaptive challenges. The following chapters will deconstruct this complex discipline into its core components. Part I. Foundations of Strategic Leadership. Chapter 2, Core Principles of Strategic Leadership. If the evolution of leadership thought provides the historical context, the core principles provide the philosophical and practical bedrock. Strategic leadership is not a single action but a multifaceted discipline built upon four interdependent pillars. This chapter explores these foundational principles that distinguish a strategic leader from a tactical manager. Visionary thinking and future casting. A strategic leader's primary role is to be the custodian of the organization's future beyond a mission statement. A vision is not a slogan on a wall, it is a vivid, aspirational, and clear picture of a desired future state. It answers the question, what will the world look like because we succeeded? The art of future casting: this involves more than just extrapolating current trends. It requires environmental scanning, constantly monitoring the external environment, PESEL analysis, 4-week signals of change. Strategic foresight: using tools like scenario planning to imagine multiple plausible futures and prepare for them, rather than betting on a single prediction. Inclusive articulation: a vision must be co-created or effectively communicated to become a shared vision. It must resonate emotionally and intellectually with stakeholders, providing a true north for every decision and action. Impact: a powerful vision provides purpose, aligns effort, inspires innovation, and fosters resilience during challenging times. It is the destination on the strategic map. Systems thinking and interconnectedness: strategic leaders understand that organizations are complex, adaptive systems, not simple mechanical machines. Seeing the whole, not just the parts, a systems thinker avoids siloed thinking. They analyze how different parts of the organization, e.g., marketing, operations, R&D, HR, interact and influence one another. Identifying feedback loops: they look for reinforcing loops, virtuous or vicious cycles, and balancing loops, self-correcting processes, that drive system behavior. For example, they understand that cutting training budgets, a cost-saving action in one silo, can lead to lower quality and higher error rates, a costly consequence in another. Anticipating unintended consequences: every intervention in a system has ripple effects. Strategic leaders play the movie forward to anticipate secondary and tertiary effects of their decisions, avoiding the pitfalls of quick-fix solutions that create larger problems downstream. Impact: this principle prevents suboptimization, where one part wins at the expense of the whole, and enables leaders to address root causes of problems rather than just symptoms. The balance of execution and innovation: the most brilliant strategy is worthless without execution, and flawless execution of an obsolete strategy leads to irrelevance. Strategic leaders master this tension. The execution engine: exploitation. This is the domain of operational excellence, efficiently delivering on current promises, managing budgets, and meeting quarterly targets. It requires discipline, process management, and a focus on reliability. The innovation engine: exploration. This is the domain of exploring new possibilities, experimenting with new business models, developing new products, and entering new markets. It requires agility, tolerance for failure, and creativity. The leader's role: ambidexterity. Strategic leaders must be ambidextrous. They must allocate resources and attention to both engines simultaneously. They protect exploratory units from the relentless pressure of quarterly earnings while ensuring the exploitative units remain efficient and competitive. They build cultures that value both productivity and experimentation impact. This balance ensures the organization survives in the present and thrives in the future. It is the practical application of managing the status quo while simultaneously disrupting its ethical foundations and sustainable leadership in a hyper-transparent world. Strategy cannot be divorced from ethics. Sustainable value creation is built on a foundation of trust beyond compliance. Ethics is not just about avoiding legal trouble, it's about building a culture of integrity where doing the right thing is the default. This includes fairness, honesty, respect, and accountability. Stakeholder capitalism. Strategic leaders move beyond a narrow focus on shareholders to consider the impact of decisions on all stakeholders, employees, customers, communities, suppliers, and the environment. They understand that long-term profitability is inextricably linked to the health of these ecosystems. The long view. Sustainable leadership means making decisions that may not maximize short-term gain but which build enduring organizational health, reputation, and social license to operate. It is the ultimate rejection of the quarterly earnings trap. Impact. Ethical leadership builds trust, which reduces transaction costs, attracts and retains top talent, enhances brand reputation, and creates a resilient organization capable of weathering crises. It is the moral compass that guides the vision and ensures the system functions for the benefit of all. Chapter conclusion. These 4 principles are not items on a checklist, they are a dynamic, interconnected system in themselves. Visionary thinking provides the direction, systems thinking provides the map, the balance of execution and innovation provides the engine, and ethical foundations provide the compass. A leader who masters the integration of these principles is equipped to navigate the most complex strategic challenges and steer their organization toward a prosperous and sustainable future. Part I. Foundations of Strategic Leadership. Chapter 3, The Strategic Leader's Mindset. While principles guide action and tools enable it, it is the leader's internal cognitive and psychological framework, their mindset, that ultimately determines their effectiveness. Strategic leadership begins not with a title, but with a way of thinking. This chapter deconstructs the essential elements of the strategic leader's mindset, the mental software that allows them to process complexity, learn from adversity, and see the world differently. Cognitive agility and mental models. Cognitive agility, this is the ability to flexibly switch between different modes of thinking. It involves holding multiple perspectives simultaneously and adapting one's thinking style to fit the problem at hand. A cognitively agile leader can be analytical one moment, creative the next, and deeply empathetic soon after. They can zoom in to examine granular details and zoom out to see the strategic big picture without losing sight of either. Mental models. These are the internal representations of how the world works, the theories, frameworks, and assumptions we use to interpret events and make decisions. They are the lenses through we see reality. The power and peril. Mental models are essential for making sense of complexity, but they become dangerous when they are implicit, untested, or outdated. They can create blind spots and lead to disastrous strategic errors, e.g., the assumption that our product will always be dominant. The leader's task. A strategic leader must, 1. Articulate their own mental models to understand their biases, 2. Challenge and test them constantly against new data, 3. Incorporate new models from different disciplines to enrich their thinking toolbox. Impact. Cognitive agility, powered by a diverse and tested set of mental models, allows a leader to navigate ambiguity, avoid rigid thinking, and generate more innovative solutions. Critical thinking and analytical rigor in an era of information overload and fake news. The ability to discern signal from noise is a superpower. Critical thinking, this is the disciplined process of actively and skillfully conceptualizing, applying, analyzing, synthesizing, and evaluating information. It moves beyond accepting information at face value to question, source, where is this coming from? What is the agenda? Evidence, what data supports this claim? Is it robust and reliable? Logic, what is the argument? Are there logical fallacies? Assumptions, what is being taken for granted? Alternatives, what other explanations or conclusions are possible? Analytical rigor, This is the commitment to grounding decisions in data and evidence, not just gut feeling or convention. It involves constructing robust arguments, designing valid tests for hypotheses, and demanding clarity and precision in strategic discussions. It is the antidote to HIPPO, highest paid person's opinion, culture impact. This mindset prevents costly mistakes born from cognitive biases and sloppy reasoning. It ensures that strategy is built on a foundation of reality, not wishful thinking, and fosters a culture of intellectual honesty within the organization. Growth mindset vs fixed mindset. Based on the work of psychologist Carol Dweck, this concept is fundamental to a leader's ability to learn and adapt. Fixed mindset, the belief that abilities, intelligence, and talent are static, innate traits. People with a fixed mindset see challenges as threats, because failure might reveal a lack of ability, avoid effort, which they believe is for the untalented, and ignore useful negative feedback. Growth mindset, the belief that abilities and intelligence can be developed through dedication, hard work, and learning from failure. Those with a growth mindset embrace challenges, persist in the face of setbacks, see effort as the path to mastery, and learn from criticism. The strategic imperative, a strategic leader must not only cultivate a growth mindset in themselves but also actively foster it throughout their organization. They must frame strategic initiatives as learning opportunities, destigmatize intelligent failure, and reward effort and process, not just outcomes. This creates a resilient and adaptive organization. Impact, a growth mindset is the engine of continuous improvement and innovation. It is the psychological prerequisite for navigating a disruptive environment where past success is no guarantee of future performance. Intellectual curiosity and continuous learning. If a growth mindset is the belief that one can learn, intellectual curiosity is the burning desire to actually do it. The beginner's mind, strategic leaders maintain a sense of wonder and inquisitiveness. They are voracious readers, not just in their field, but across disciplines: history, science, psychology, art. Knowing that breakthrough ideas often occur at the intersections of fields. Active inquiry, they lead with questions, not answers. They are comfortable saying "I don't know" and see it as an opportunity to explore. They engage with diverse thinkers and seek out perspectives that challenge their own. Continuous learning as a discipline, they systematically dedicate time to their own development. This goes beyond formal education to include seeking feedback, reflecting on experiences, and experimenting with new approaches. They view their career as a portfolio of learning experiences. Impact, intellectual curiosity is the fuel for innovation and foresight. It prevents strategic stagnation and arrogance. A leader who is constantly learning ensures their organization does too, creating a culture that is alert to new opportunities and threats on the horizon. Chapter conclusion, the strategic leader's mindset is the invisible architecture of effective leadership. Cognitive agility provides the flexibility, critical thinking provides the discipline, a growth mindset provides the resilience, and intellectual curiosity provides the fuel. Together, they form a learning system that allows a leader to not just respond to change, but to anticipate it, shape it, and continually evolve themselves and their organization. This internal foundation makes the external application of strategic tools and principles possible. Part 2, the Strategic Toolkit. Chapter 4, Environmental and Situational Analysis. A strategist is a navigator, and no navigator would set a course without first understanding the sea, the weather, and the other vessels around them. Environmental and situational analysis provides the charts and instruments for this task. This chapter introduces the foundational frameworks strategic leaders use to scan the external environment and diagnose their competitive position, transforming raw data into actionable intelligence. PESTLE analysis: political, economic, social, technological, legal, environmental. PESTLE is a macro-environmental scanning tool that provides a high-level, holistic view of the external forces that could impact an organization. It ensures leaders look beyond their industry to see the broader landscape of change. Purpose: to identify and analyze the key drivers of change in the external environment that present opportunities or threats. The 6 dimensions: 1. Political, government policies, taxation changes, trade restrictions, political stability, corruption levels, and regulatory frameworks. 2. Economic growth, interest rates, exchange rates, inflation, unemployment rates, disposable income, and business cycles. 3. Social, demographic shifts, cultural trends, population, analytics, age distribution, career attitudes, health consciousness, and social mobility for technological, R&D activity, automation, technology incentives, the pace of technological change, digital disruption, and innovations in other industries that could be applied. 5. Legal, health and safety laws, discrimination laws, antitrust laws, employment laws, consumer protection laws, and future legislative changes. 6. Environmental, ecological and environmental aspects such as weather, climate change, environmental policies, carbon footprint, and sustainability trends. Strategic application, used at the outset of strategic planning to ensure the strategy is aligned with powerful external currents. For example, a car manufacturer would use PESEL to analyze the push towards electric vehicles. Political, environmental, advancements in battery tech, technological, and changing urban mobility preferences. Social, Porter's 5 Forces model developed by Michael E. Porter. This framework analyzes the industry-level competitive environment to understand the underlying structure of an industry and assess its overall attractiveness and profitability. Purpose, to understand the intensity of competition within an industry and, by extension, its potential for profitability. The 5 Forces. 1. Threat of new entrants. How easy is it for new competitors to enter the market? Barriers include economies of scale, capital requirements, brand loyalty, and government policy. 2. Bargaining power of suppliers. How much control do suppliers of key inputs have? Power is high if there are few substitutes or switching costs are high. 3. Bargaining power of buyers. How much control do customers have? Power is high if buyers are large, purchase in volume, or there are many alternative products. 4. Threat of substitute products or services. The likelihood that customers will switch to a different type of product that performs the same function, e.g., video conferencing as a substitute for business travel. 5. Rivalry among existing competitors. The intensity of competition between current players, often driven by numerous equally balanced competitors, slow industry growth, or high fixed costs. Strategic application, helps a company choose where to compete. A strategy can be designed to position the company where the forces are weakest, e.g., building brand loyalty to reduce the threat of new entrants, or to exploit changes in the forces. SWOT analysis, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats. SWOT is a simple yet powerful tool for synthesizing internal and external analysis into a concise summary. It sits at the crucial intersection between the organization and its environment. Purpose, to create a structured overview of the strategic situation by listing and evaluating internal capabilities, strengths and weaknesses, and external possibilities, opportunities and threats. The 4 quadrants, strengths, internal, positive. What does the organization do well? E.g., strong brand, loyal customers, proprietary technology, talented workforce. Weaknesses, internal, negative. What could the organization improve? E.g., high debt, weak supply chain, lack of diversification. Opportunities, external, positive. What favorable conditions in the environment could the organization exploit? E.g., new market, change in regulations, competitor failure. Threats, external, negative. What challenges in the environment could harm the organization? E.g., new competitor, economic downturn, shifting consumer tastes. Strategic application, the true power of SWOT emerges in its synthesis. Strategic leaders use it to generate strategies by matching quadrants. So strategies, use strengths to capitalize on opportunities. ST strategies, use strengths to minimize or avoid threats. WO strategies, overcome weaknesses by exploiting opportunities. WT strategies, defensive actions to prevent weaknesses from making you highly vulnerable to threats. VUCA world analysis, volatility, uncertainty, complexity, ambiguity, originating in the military. The VUCA framework is less a formal tool and more a mindset for categorizing and responding to different types of challenging environmental conditions. Purpose, to diagnose the specific nature of the chaos an organization faces and to tailor a leadership response accordingly. The 4 conditions, volatility, the nature, speed, volume, and magnitude of change. The challenge is unexpected but not necessarily hard. To understand response, build resilience and agility. Uncertainty, the lack of predictability. The past is not a reliable guide to the future response. Invest in information gathering, scenario planning, and experiment to learn complexity, the multiplex of forces, the confounding of issues, and the chaos and confusion that surround an organization response. Delegate authority, empower teams, and use systems thinking to map interconnections. Ambiguity, the haziness of reality, the potential for misreads. Cause and effect relationships are completely unclear. Response, experiment, probe, and test to create sense-making. Tolerate failure. Strategic application, a strategic leader uses the VUCA framework to avoid a one-size-fits-all response to disruption. It helps them ask, what kind of messy problem is this, and then apply the appropriate strategic posture, moving from a command and control model to one of adaptation, experimentation, and sense-making. Chapter conclusion. These four analytical tools are not used in isolation. A strategic leader typically starts with a pestle to understand the macro environment, uses Porter's 5 forces to understand industry dynamics, synthesizes these with internal factors into a SWOT, and uses the VUCA lens to calibrate their approach to the specific nature of the challenge. Together, they form a comprehensive diagnostic system for making sense of the world before making a move. Part 2, the Strategic Toolkit. Chapter 5, Formulating. Strategy analysis provides the insight, but formulation is the act of making choices. This chapter moves from diagnosing the environment to the creative and disciplined process of crafting the strategy itself. It covers the essential components of a strategy, from its highest level aspirations to the specific choices that define how the organization will compete and win. Vision, mission, and value proposition development. These 3 elements form the foundational identity and strategic direction of an organization. They are the why, what, and for whom that guide every subsequent decision. Vision statement, purpose, to paint a vivid and inspiring picture of the organization's desired future state, what it aspires to become or achieve in the long term. It is the ultimate destination. Key characteristics, aspirational, future-oriented, motivational, and clear. It should serve as a unifying focal point for effort and a catalyst for action. Example, Microsoft's vision, to empower every person and every organization on the planet to achieve more. Mission statement, purpose, to define the organization's core purpose and primary objectives. It explains why the organization exists today, its reason for being, its scope of operations, and its core values. Key characteristics, purpose-driven, focused on the present, practical, and defines the business the organization is in. Example, Tesla's mission, to accelerate the world's transition to sustainable energy. Value proposition, purpose, a clear, specific statement that explains the unique value a product or service provides to a specific customer segment. It answers, why should a customer choose you over a competitor? Key characteristics, customer-centric, specific, and differentiated. It clearly articulates the problem being solved, the benefit offered, and the unique differentiation. Example, a simple value proposition, Slack, be more productive at work with less effort, solves the problem of inefficient communication, provides the benefit of productivity, and is differentiated by its ease of use. Setting strategic intent, goals, objectives, and key results, OKRs. A beautiful vision is useless without a concrete plan to get there. This is the process of creating a cascading set of targets that align the organization goals, broad, qualitative, and long-term statements of what the organization wants to accomplish. They are aligned with the vision and mission, e.g., become the market leader in customer satisfaction. Objectives, within OKRs. The O in OKRs, they are significant, concrete, action-oriented, and, ideally, inspirational. Qualitative goals, they answer what will be achieved, e.g., revolutionize our customer onboarding experience. Key results, KRS. The KRS in OKRs, they are a set of 2 to 5 measurable, quantitative metrics that track the achievement of an objective. They answer how we will know we've met our objective, e.g., increase customer onboarding satisfaction score from 75 to 90, reduce time to first value from 14 days to 3 days. Strategic application, the OKR framework, popularized by Google, creates radical focus, alignment, and transparency. Strategic objectives are set at the organizational level, and then teams and individuals set their own OKRs that directly contribute to the top-level goals, ensuring everyone is pulling in the same direction. Competitive advantage, cost leadership, differentiation, and focus. Michael Porter's generic strategies outline the three fundamental ways an organization can achieve a sustainable competitive advantage. Cost leadership, becoming the lowest cost producer in the industry. Strategy, achieve economies of scale. Efficient operations, tight cost control, and minimize overhead. The goal is to compete on price and win, or to earn higher margins at the standard price. Example, Walmart, Southwest Airlines. Differentiation, creating a product or service that is perceived as unique and superior by customers across the industry. Strategy, innovate on product features, quality, customer service, brand image, or technology. Customers pay a premium price for the perceived added value. Example, Apple, Nike, Tesla. Focus, concentrating on a narrow market segment, a niche market. Strategy, the focuser can then pursue either a cost advantage, cost focus, or a differentiation advantage, differentiation focus. Within its target segment it serves a specific buyer group, geographic market, or product line segment better than competitors who serve a broader market. Example, Rolex, differentiation focus on luxury watches, a local organic bakery, cost or differentiation focus on a local, health-conscious segment. Strategic warning, Porter argues that being stuck in the middle, failing to choose clearly between these strategies, is a recipe for low profitability. A strategic leader must make a conscious choice. Blue ocean strategy, creating uncontested market space. Developed by W. Chan Kim and Renee Mauborgne, this strategy advocates for creating new demand in unknown market space, rather than fighting competitors in existing, bloody red oceans. Red ocean vs blue ocean. Red oceans represent all the industries in existence today. The known market space here, companies try to outperform rivals to grab a greater share of existing demand. The competition is cutthroat, and the water is bloody. Blue oceans denote all the industries not in existence today. The unknown market space, untainted by competition. Here, demand is created rather than fought over. There is ample opportunity for growth that is both profitable and rapid. The strategy canvas and 4 actions framework, the key tool for blue ocean strategy. It involves drawing a graph to understand the current competitive factors and then using the ERRC grid to create a new value curve. Eliminate, which factors that the industry takes for granted should be eliminated. Reduce, which factors should be reduced well below the industry's standard. Raise, which factors should be raised well above the industry's standard. Create, which factors should be created that the industry has never offered. Example, Cirque du Soleil eliminated expensive star performers and animal acts. It reduced the emphasis on thrills and danger. It raised the emphasis on artistic dance and theme. It created a refined, high-class entertainment experience. In doing so, it created a new market, blue ocean, that broke the boundary between circus and theater. Strategic application, this approach pushes leaders to think non-competitively, to innovate in value, and to systematically reconstruct market boundaries to break the traditional value-cost trade-off. Chapter conclusion, formulating strategy is the art of making clear, coherent, and courageous choices. It begins with defining a core identity, vision, mission, value prop, translates it into a measurable plan, goals, OKRs, makes a fundamental choice about how to win, competitive advantage, and can be revolutionized by seeking to make competition irrelevant. Blue ocean strategy, the output of this chapter is a clear strategic direction statement that will guide the critical work of execution, covered in the next chapter. Part 2, the Strategic Toolkit. Chapter 6, Strategic Decision-Making. Formulating a brilliant strategy is one thing, making the countless decisions required to see it through is another. Strategic leadership is, in practice, a continuous stream of decisions under uncertainty. This chapter explores the frameworks, pitfalls, and balancing acts that define effective strategic decision-making, moving it from a haphazard art to a disciplined science. Models for effective decision-making, e.g., OODA loop, SINEFIN framework, Traditional linear models often fail in complex strategic environments. Leaders need dynamic frameworks designed for real-world chaos. The OODA loop: observe, orient, decide, act. Origin: developed by military strategist John Boyd for fighter combat, it is a cycle for achieving agility in competitive environments. The cycle: 1. Observe, gather information from the environment openly and without bias. 2. Orient, this is the crucial, often overlooked step. Analyze the information through the lens of your existing cultural traditions, genetic heritage, previous experience, and new knowledge. This is where you form your mental model of the situation. 3. Decide, make a hypothesis or choose a course of action based on your orientation. 4. Act, test your decision in the real-world. Strategic application: the goal is not to make a perfect decision, but to iterate through the loop faster and more effectively than your competition. The action you take changes the situation, which you then observe, leading to a new orientation. This creates a feedback loop of learning and adaptation, allowing an organization to outmaneuver larger, slower rivals. The SINEFIN framework, in origin, developed by Dave Snowden. This sense-making framework helps leaders diagnose the type of situation they are in and apply the appropriate decision-making approach. The 5 domains: 1. Clear, formerly simple. The domain of best practices: the relationship between cause and effect is obvious to all. Response, sense, categorize, respond. Establish facts, apply proven rules, and standardize processes. 2. Complicated, the domain of experts: there is a known relationship between cause and effect, but it requires analysis or expertise to see it. Response, sense, analyze, respond. Gather data, consult experts, and choose an optimal solution. 3. Complex, the domain of emergence: cause and effect are only coherent in retrospect and do not repeat. This is the domain of most strategic challenges. Response, probe, sense, respond. You cannot analyze your way to an answer. Instead, run safe-to-fail experiments, see what emerges, and then amplify successful patterns. 4. Chaotic, the domain of rapid response: there is no perceivable relationship between cause and effect. Response, act, sense, respond. The immediate goal is to stabilize the situation, act first, then sense where there is stability, and then respond to transform the situation from chaotic to complex. 5. Disorder, the state of not knowing which domain you are in. The goal is to move into a known domain as quickly as possible. Strategic application, the SINEFIN framework prevents the fatal error of applying a complicated, expert analysis solution to a complex problem, which requires experimentation. A strategic leader's first task is to correctly categorize the problem. Mitigating bias and cognitive traps: human judgment is systematically flawed. Strategic leaders must be aware of their own mental shortcuts and implement processes to counter them. Common strategic biases: confirmation bias, the tendency to search for, interpret, and recall information that confirms one's pre-existing beliefs. Overconfidence bias, excessive confidence in one's own answers to questions and the accuracy of one's beliefs. Sunk cost fallacy, the tendency to continue an endeavor once an investment in money, effort, or time has been made, even if the current costs outweigh the benefits. Anchoring, the tendency to rely too heavily on the first piece of information offered, the anchor, when making decisions. Mitigation strategies, seek disconfirming evidence, actively assign someone to argue against a proposed strategy. Implement premortems, before a decision is finalized, imagine it has failed spectacularly and have the team generate reasons for its failure. Use devil's advocates, formally designate a person to challenge assumptions and poke holes in the consensus. Establish clear decision criteria before evaluating options, this prevents falling in love with a single option and then justifying it retroactively. Diversify your team, homogeneous teams are breeding grounds for groupthink. Diversity of thought, background, and experience is a powerful antidote to bias. Data-driven vs intuitive decision-making, the modern mantra is be data-driven, but intuition, born of experience, still plays a vital role. The strategic leader knows when to lean on which data-driven decision-making, what it is, basing decisions on data analysis, metrics, and evidence rather than purely on intuition or observation. Strengths, reduces bias, provides objective evidence, allows for testing hypotheses, and can reveal hidden patterns and correlations. Weaknesses, Data is always backward-looking. It can create analysis paralysis. It can miss qualitative factors, e.g., morale, brand perception, and is only as good as the questions being asked. Intuitive decision making, what it is, making decisions based on a gut feeling, a subconscious integration of past experiences, patterns, and knowledge. Strengths, extremely fast, essential in novel or chaotic situations where data is absent, and effective for synthesizing a vast array of soft factors. Weaknesses, prone to all the cognitive biases listed above, difficult to justify or communicate to others, can be mistaken for ignorance or impulsivity. The strategic synthesis, the most effective leaders do not choose one over the other. They use data to inform their intuition and intuition to ask better questions of the data. One, start with data to understand the landscape and challenge assumptions. To apply intuition to frame the problem, generate creative hypotheses, and make sense of contradictory data. 3, use data again to test the intuitive hypotheses through experiments and pilots. 4, refine intuition based on the results. This creates a virtuous cycle where empirical evidence and seasoned judgment continuously improve each other. Chapter conclusion. Strategic decision-making is the engine room of execution. By employing agile frameworks like the OODA loop and SINEFIN, leaders can navigate different types of challenges. By consciously building processes to mitigate bias, they ensure their judgment is not clouded, and by striking a balance between data and intuition, they combine the best of analytical rigor with the wisdom of experience. This disciplined approach transforms decision-making from a vulnerability into a core competitive advantage. Part 2, the Strategic Toolkit. Chapter 7, Strategy, Execution and Implementation. A brilliant strategy that remains a document on a shelf is a fantasy. Execution is everything. It is the grueling, complex, and often messy process of turning vision and analysis into reality. This chapter addresses the critical how of strategy, exploring the systems, alignments, and leadership actions required to breathe life into a strategic plan. Translating strategy into action, the Balanced Scorecard. Developed by Robert Kaplan and David Norton, the Balanced Scorecard, BSC, is a seminal framework that translates an organization's strategic objectives into a coherent set of performance measures. The core problem: many organizations get stuck measuring only financial performance, which is a lagging indicator. It tells you what has happened. The BSC complements financial measures with leading indicators that predict future performance. The 4 perspectives. The BSC suggests viewing the organization from 4 perspectives to develop metrics, collect data, and analyze it. 1. Financial: to succeed financially, how should we appear to our shareholders? Objectives and measures might include profitability, revenue growth, and shareholder value. 2. Customer: to achieve our vision, how should we appear to our customers? Objectives and measures might include customer satisfaction, retention, market share, and value proposition delivery. 3. Internal business processes: to satisfy our shareholders and customers, what business processes must we excel at? Objectives and measures might focus on operational efficiency, quality, innovation process, and customer onboarding. For learning and growth: to achieve our vision, how will we sustain our ability to change and improve? Objectives and measures might include employee skills and capabilities, organizational culture, technology infrastructure, and knowledge management. Strategic application: the power of the BSC is in its causal linkages. A strategy map visually shows the hypothesis of how the strategy will work, e.g., investing in employee training, learning and growth, leads to higher quality processes. Internal, which leads to increased customer satisfaction. Customer, which finally leads to improved financial results. Financial: this creates a holistic management system that aligns day-to-day work with long-term strategy, aligning structure, culture, and resources with strategy. Strategy dictates choices about the organization itself, and misalignment in any of these areas will strangle even the best laid plans. Aligning structure: the organizational design must enable the strategy, not hinder it. Example: a strategy based on innovation and speed requires a flatter, more decentralized, and agile structure. E.g., cross-functional teams. A strategy based on cost leadership and efficiency may be better served by a more hierarchical, functional structure. Key question: does our structure facilitate the communication, collaboration, and decision-making speed our strategy requires? Aligning culture: The shared values, norms, and behaviors of the organization must support the strategic goals. Example, a blue ocean strategy of creating new markets requires a culture that embraces risk, tolerates